Welcome everybody to a look at a new Eureka Classics release, and it is 1974's Juggernaut. Yeah, this is directed by Richard Lester. I've seen several films from him before, but the only one that I can say I've categorically loved is Robin and Marion. But he's also most well known for being the subsequent director for Superman 2 after Richard Donner had been sacked. Yeah, this is a crime suspense film clocking in at 110 minutes long. Has a fantastic cast. You've got the likes of Richard Harris, who we've talked about already earlier this year in the likes of Orca, but he was also in Robin and Marion, as well as the Molly Maguires and Gladiator. So also stars Omar Sharif, who was in Lawrence of Arabia, Top Secret, and The Horseman. You also got David Hemmings, who was also in Gladiator, but he's the most famous, as far as I'm concerned, for his more horror efforts, in the likes of Deep Red, Eye of the Devil, and Fragment of Fear. And Anthony Hopkins, who's in 21 other films. Favourites from him have been, of course, the likes of Silence of the Lambs, but also The Mask of Zorro. And in supporting roles, you've got Ian Holm, Rory Kinnear, and Julian Glover, who was the villain in two really rather good films in the 80s, like So For Your Eyes Only and Indiana Jones and The Last Crusade. Yeah, a terrorist demands a huge ransom in exchange for information on how to disarm the 7 bombs he has planted aboard a transatlantic cruise ship called the Britannic, which is kind of a bit of a omen in its own right, considering the fate of the RMS Britannic, the sister ship to Titanic. But yeah, despite this crime suspense film not having the best script, somewhat lacking characterization, and not having the most satisfying of conclusions, it is kept afloat by a great cast, plenty of tense scenes, and decent production quality. I also really like the fact that you see the intricacies on processes that go on during the bomb diffusing operations, and even has some humor to keep it entertaining between the really rather solid action scenes. Yeah, it's not the most spectacular film you're going to see from this period in time. You know, each of the cast members I can guarantee have been in something as good as, if not better, even from the same decade. You know, Ian Holm, Alien, Omar Sharif, I'd say The Horseman is a slightly more engaging film in terms of characterization. You've got David Hemmings in the likes of Deep Red and Fragment of Fear, and then Richard Harris in the likes of Orca, Robin and Marion, and the Molly Maguire. So certainly not the best from the lead cast in terms of their films from the same decade. And certainly not in terms of their filmographies overall, but still, it is a really rather engaging film in its own right, and one that is enjoyable in a you know Saturday evening kind of popcorn thriller kind of film. Yeah, got a good disc printing there on the go. Which kind of looks like a kind of the ship's paint job, as you can see, because it's white and red on the ship, and we're white and red on the disc itself, which is a nice little touch. Um, don't quite like the artwork that it has on the slipcover because it does look a little bit silly. Richard Harris's face, like, why am I here? What am I doing? Um, but yeah, I don't think that's the original artwork. I think that has been done for this release, or it is at least based on the original artwork. As you can see, Richard Harris is again there in that. So it's basically like kind of like a zoomed in version of that with a couple of characters in the background. We also have a booklet with this, which has inside your cast and your crew. And then we have a day in the life, notes on Juggernaut by Richard Combs, and which also has shots from the film throughout. There is the late great Richard Harris. And then we also have The Professionals, Richard Lester and the Mission to Rescue Juggernaut by Laura Main. And then we have, viewing notes and such where, yeah, go through what the film should look like on a widescreen display and such. Yeah, decent booklet there. Not the thickest that Eureka have ever released, but neither is it, non-existent like you'll get in some releases of this film. And yeah, on the disc itself, we've got a 1080p high definition presentation on Blu-ray, optional English subtitles, new audio commentary with British cinema experts Melanie Williams and James Legault. Then we've got All Hands on Deck, new interview with film historian Neil Sinyard, author of the films of Richard Lester. Then we got Down with the Ship, a new interview with film historian Sheldon Hall on Juggernaut and the disaster film, which is something that this film was unfortunately lumped in with, which is not to say the disaster film genre is a bad genre, but when you obviously are lumped in with that genre unfairly and unnecessarily, you are then ultimately going to be compared to other films in that genre, and chief among which is going to be the Poseidon Adventure. So I can see why people might well have been put by that, because yeah, it does look like a disaster film. You know, you got a ship there in the waves rolling around. You got it damaged, on fire. You got a massive cast, which is something that was also commonplace with the disaster film genre at the time. So yeah, I can see why people did, you know, come to the conclusion without seeing the film that it was a disaster film and therefore didn't prove to be all that successful as a result. We also have a stills gallery and trailer along with it. As well, like I said, the booklet. So, yeah, this isn't a film that I haven't owned before because I did have do have a Kino Lorber release of this film, all the way from America. But this doesn't have anywhere near as many extras, although it does have an extra on here that isn't on the Eureka disc. It has an audio commentary of film historian Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, but it does also have a theatrical trailer and TV spot, which we also have in terms of a trailer on here. So yeah, this has a TV spot and a different audio commentary, but that's all it has going for it. And it's just, I imagine it's um, the same 1080p high definition presentation as the one here, because this is from 2023, and although this does say 2024, it's likely going to be the same one. But I prefer the artwork with this release, and we also get a lot more extras on the Eureka release. We also get a booklet as well, which we did not get with this, and I also prefer the printed disc as well that we got with the Eureka one as well. So yeah, I am going through my collection and selling off, you know, multiple copies of films that I have, or you know, ones that I don't wish to have anymore as well. Not sure if I'm going to do a video on that or not at some point, but yeah, this is a really rather good film. It's not a perfect film, 3.5 out of 5, but it's still a really good one and one that I do find enjoyable. And yeah, even though it was unfairly lumped into the disaster genre at the time, I do feel like it's one that's worth, you know, reappreciating and just enjoying for what it actually is. So yeah, so if you have seen this film before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But nonetheless, thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.